You got the battery for.
It's getting more difficult as time goes by. We are live on all 5 platforms. We're gonna start the day off with a little meditation, soulogy style.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back in about 2 minutes and 22 seconds with Joseph Adams. Welcome, everybody. Let me just make sure they're coming in. Signal's been acting strange lately. Okay, here we go. All right, we're good.
Found a higher elevation. I did a video earlier. Lower elevation. See that? Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. That light's even coming in. At least I can see it. I don't know if it's going to come out. It's a beautiful planet. We're a beautiful species. Everybody's got a role here. We don't understand it. It's time to move away from the lower density vibrations. The veil's been lifted. There's plenty of light beings, higher energies that we don't understand and can never understand as human beings. But we have company here on this earth, and we always have, but now that the veil's lifted, a lot more people are seeing it. Keep your head up. Keep the faith. Most of all, stay in your own power. Protect it. It's yours. It's the only thing you can own in this universe is you. Nobody can own you, and you can't own anybody. And anyone that ever came up with the idea, or whoever did come up with the idea that anything could be possessed on this earth was wrong. There's no such thing as a patent or a copyright or a trademark. No such thing as a contract. Nothing. Soul is soul. We're all one. And that's not a cliche. The light has won. We're all going to be part of this mutual rising. It's not just a soul thing. It's not just a Gaia thing. It's not just a solar system thing. Galactic. It involves more than our sun and our moon. All the stars that we can see. Nobody can own you. It's big time. Everybody that's here signed up for it. And it's about to pay off. I'll see y'all at the after party. Todd Medina, Soldier One Studios, wishing you peace, power, protection, and big love to you and yours. One.
How's it going, everybody? We got Joseph Adams in the house. Today's Adams Day. Today's Adams Family Day. We have Sarah R. Adams, big on YouTube. She's coming on for the first time. Half an hour after this show, we got a half an hour late start. A lot of stuff going on. I know everybody's feeling it, and I am too. So I just want to share that with everybody. I'm not 100%, but Joseph's going to carry the load today. So,
Lots to talk about.
Yeah, welcome back. Congratulations on your move to Florida. And,
it's coming up here. The first week of October.
Yeah,
Me and Megan.
We have a very dear friend that we stayed with for a week there. That's why I know that area. And so just let me know when you go, and I'll put you in touch with her. She's no longer living there, but she lived there for quite some time. She might be able to give you a few pointers. Plus, she's a really cool chick. So here we go. I just want to make a couple of announcements real quick. We got this show. We got one more show, and then we hit the road for Sedona. We'll try to do some live broadcasting from the road, but probably we won't see you till Friday the 18th. And then we're going to have 2 weeks of several hours a day of programming on average. So we got Joseph Adams back. He's our second time coming back. Yeah. And we're just going to wing it And I'm just going to ask you straight up, how things been going since the last time we talked. It was probably, about 30 days ago?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's been about a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great interview. It was so much fun to talk with you. It's it's really refreshing to have someone with such a grounded, presence and purpose. So it was an easy choice to come back and hopefully have a really cool conversation today.
Right on. Have you been affected by the energies, you and your beloved? Has there been?
Oh man,
Have you noticed?
yeah.
Have you noticed any change in the cosmic weather in September?
Well, man, there has been a huge buildup of catalysts, probably since April. When the whole COVID thing happened, there was the big, basically shutdown of the world, and you could almost feel the quietness for that 1 month of time where it just seemed like the majority of the world was actually staying put. So there's this huge, moment in which there's all this quiet growth that we could have personally. Because, I meditate every day. So you get a new chance to discover the energies that are incoming and how the collective is moving. And then all of a sudden it gets started up, and then we go through the summertime and then more recently. And it honestly feels like the level of bringing everything to the physical. These energies are forcing people to acknowledge, behaviors, and we're changing from within on such a level that I haven't experienced in many, many years. So, we're going through the gauntlet with getting ourselves upgraded and ready to be, the versions of ourselves we're trying to.
Yeah, true that. And it's affecting, Morgan just put up a great comment, life review.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I hadn't even heard her say that about this period. But there's one thing that's pretty obvious, that it's not, she got a channel in 3 weeks ago, and I remember it was a little bit longer, and it was the human body is the last one to come online. Like all the multidimensional bodies, all the different aspects are in alignment or near enough in alignment, and the body will not be left out. The human will not be left out. And so then, like maybe 10 days ago, her team came in and just said, hey, we're not going to let the human get out of this one. And the human, to me, has, as we've discovered, has all these layers to it, which includes the body, includes the mental, the emotional. And I think that comment about the life review is a big deal because we are leaving a lot of stuff behind, and it's a little bit challenging to the ego. But, having said all that, the body seems to be taking on I guess the consciousness of the body is stepping up and communicating with us, at least in my opinion, as it never has before. Like it's going to be seen on equal ground as any of our multidimensional aspects. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It reminds me of that barrier between, when we have like a thought or an intention, then there's that initial barrier between something being non-physical and then something becoming physical. Yeah. When you have an idea like, oh, I need to be a better person. I need to start, waking up earlier, or I need to start, doing these specific actual physical movements to be in more of alignment. So you have that barrier, and it's becoming, as you said, it's like the body's voice is getting stronger, pulling that non-physical energy back down, versus in the past where it's like, your mind was in control of creating the behavior. Now the body's coming back up and meeting us, halfway in the middle, helping us really tune in and, start displaying and moving around in the ways that we need to.
Yeah, that's true. And I think to me, it's like, as I'm listening to you talk, it seems like the reverse now. Like we played up in the dimensions, we visualized, we meditated, visualized, manifested, with some degree of success, as we were finding our way. And now it's like the body is grounded, entrenched, dug its heels in, and everything is having to come to the body. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, so the body's actually manifesting the non-physical qualities that we are and that we have. Gods and goddesses in the flesh, so to speak. Whereas before, it was like the body being the body collective of the human, which we know is many, many different things. But before, it was like the body was separate, like it was a separate existence, like we were walking in two worlds. And now we seem to be pulling down all this information, or all this data, information, aspects, the whole 9 yards, into one place. And it's not a place of non-movement. It's a place of physicality where there's a constant flow of movement that is kind of making us have to learn to, to what is that old saying? Walk and chew gum at the same time. But you know what I mean? It's not like you can sit there and just pull it in and be in a Buddhist state. We're actually having to function in the 3D while we pull this stuff in on the go.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because there's so many of us that want to just be in that cave and meditate all day and bring in the most pure experiences and be profound, but it's not about that right now. Like this generation, all of us alive right now that are leading this movement, we're trying to implement the foundation. We have to get out there and actually create change. We have to create that new structure for who's coming after us.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really is, really does feel like a mission at times where, it's, and it reminds me of the bodhisattvas, those who reach enlightenment, but they refrain from that full embodiment, and they go back and they help society. And they say, I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to empower you. So many of us, we really do have a lot of goals that we have to get grounded. We have to get things moving. And, it reminds me, I was thinking of a few topics about what people think higher consciousness is, and how the spiritual community at times seems to only perceive the third eye in the crown and those transcendental feelings and emotions. And then you have people that may bypass a lot of the earthly feelings, a lot of the grounded states. But I think that's a big discrepancy, because, higher consciousness, to me kind of feels like we're trying to have full range of emotion, to be fully grounded, and to be as joyful as we can, to be fully laughing and having a great time, versus those who just, may bypass those emotions. So I really think getting all that strong energy that the last months have been kicking up and getting it back into the physical body,
Yeah. I don't think we have a choice. I think it's just, that's what I mean. I think the body's like stepped up. To me, it's like, so say all of your aspects are like standing in a circle, like a circle of life, as some people have experienced, such as a monad or a family, soul family in dimension, and your center stage. But I mean, what I'm saying is it's all in itself an oversoul, to a certain extent. And it's like everything is stepped up, a certain aspect from a future life or a past life or a parallel existence has stepped up and given us information, or a divine essence, or an angelic or a galactic. And now it seems like the body's stepping up into the circle and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm equal. I'm the boots on the ground. I will be an equal vote. And because I am the center point of this experience, I'm going to start having a little more confidence in, spiritually, in the decisions I make as I try to align my free will with universal will, or this oversoul's will. It's like we have enough information, not just what's going on collectively, but what's going on in our own oversoul group, which is, what's my purpose here? What are my purposes here? Who are my soul family? How do I disengage and detach from the illusionary part of the experience, and then lock into and focus and intend into what I'm here to do? And I think we're seeing a lot of that happening. And I also feel that the third energy, the energy that's created where two or more gather, so to speak, is really having a big hand now. And I think we're starting to see that more and more, that invisible hand of providence. It's moving things out of the way and creating things. in assisting us. And I think this is extraordinary because we can actually see it, touch it, feel it now. It's happening.
Mm-hmm. And kind of to add on to what you just said, it's like that physical body with that voice, is trying to get us to get into full alignment. So we're moving and acting in the ways that we need to. It reminded me how, what's happening in my life, in my partner's life, is that your actual physical environment will push you out if you're not meant to be there. You will start receiving a lot of information and experiences that will, your physical body will feel it and say, oh man, I'm not supposed to be here. I need to make moves. I need to get in alignment with where I need to be. And that's actually what brought us to wanting to move to Florida in the first place was, to find that new environment. We want to be by the ocean. We want to get in the healing that we need to so we can continue our path. And your environment will push you out and your body will react to it. So,
that's a good place that you picked, Nokomis Beach. That's how you say it now. I just remembered. It's a really powerful place. And of course, Siesta Key Beach is right up the road, 10 miles. And then Sarasota's, pretty much about the same distance. What you're saying, and again, it's stimulating to have these conversations because I also realize the impact of I don't want to say the false consciousness, but let's just say the ego consciousness. So you have this thing, like for instance, in the example that you're giving, where the body's telling us, hey, you're not to be in this environment. You're not to be in this relationship. You're not to be in this job. You're not to be in this pattern or this behavioral pattern. And if you continue to do that, I'm going to, with the benevolent help of the universe, I'm going to get in your face, and you're going to start feeling a little discomfort.
Yeah.
So you have this part of this of our, and you have to say it's part of our consciousness. It's at least part of our consciousness in this realm: the ego, the emotions, the wounded child. All this different stuff that's resisting what our oversoul is telling us, what's resisting what our higher self is telling us when we're not following the guidance. So there's a little bit of a split. And I don't think it's like we're just going to get rid of the old consciousness or the old ego. I think it sits there. It paid its price. It's part of us. It's here for the ride. It's here to enjoy the fruits of our labor, but it's also here to rest and to allow all of this stuff that's coming into alignment, that's being directed by the vessel, as you were saying, and to utilize that higher understanding, that higher awareness, to exercise a more aligned free will with universal will, as opposed to this resistance that's been a part of our conditioning and programming and experiencing in the past. That's dying a somewhat painful death, but it's got to be respected, honored, loved, and revered. And so I guess, I'm not the only one out there that's got two voices talking to him, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the archetypes of mind, coming through. And, each individual experience, you might have this part of your archetype that comes out, the teacher, the rebel, the healer, any one of those situations, either your strength comes out or that shadow comes out. And if, the voice of the physical that, maybe we're not acting in the way we need to be, as you said, you're going to suffer, but that suffering is very valuable because that's the catalyst. That's the charge that's going to get you out of there. So the whole philosophy of, life is some form of suffering, but that's the propulsion that's needed, And I was going to say, have you experienced anything physical within this last time frame that's kind of made you want to move differently or act differently to get more in alignment?
I'm hearing, different things, and it comes in softly, It's, again, to me, it's like these two voices, and that's this is a metaphor. So there's like two voices. There's this higher guidance that got us all into this game. The one that made us do all these crazy things and get estranged from our family and quit our jobs. And here we are now in 2020, and we're really being supported and the community's growing. So you have some confidence with that. Then you have the other body that's, I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or I like this, or I like that. And again, these are metaphors, but yeah, I can kind of hear it telling me things. One of the things that I am getting out of it over the last few weeks is that don't rush, don't make a rash choice. Just let it happen. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going to give up peanut butter and jelly, it's going to go naturally, but don't like let go of something when you're still have an attachment to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we have to detach, but it's not like that. It's like, don't let it go until everything's in alignment and then let it go.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what occurs. Now, the other example I'd give would be less of a body signal. I guess it is a bit of a body signal, but I see one of the things that's happened is we have had to detach. I don't say had to. We have naturally, through our evolution, many of us detached and extracted ourselves from the closest circles to us, which was our family and friends for many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as we do that, we start to walk into this new space of what you might call soul family or monadic energy,
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, co-creation, no agenda, and all this other stuff. But at the same time, as we're doing this, we've been walking in two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happened to me is I get these overtures from that old circle who I love very much, and I've become more and more adept. And I know this sounds kind of harsh, at being able to let that go and not go play daddy or go play the son or to go play the brother or go play the old friend, and just stick with where I'm at. But it still hurts a little bit. It's still a little bit painful, and that's felt in the body.
Yeah.
For me, it is. But at the same time, you keep walking that path, or I do, and it's getting a little bit softer. But the body's telling me, hey, that hurts, and that's okay. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's okay. It's not going away, and I just kind of let it sit there. But it does stay on my mind.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, like, for those that are trying to change their behavior or develop new thought patterns, one of the biggest helpers that I've had is the very simple positive affirmations. You don't have to know, just like we talked on the prior episode, said this isn't the dimension of knowing. You don't have to know how everything's going to work, how everything's going to unfold. You just have to have your faith in yourself, which is, the direct connection to your higher power, and then the trust that it's going to occur. So just fall back on a positive affirmation that you will embody what you need to embody, or I am healed, I will prevail, or something very, very simple, but it allows you to surrender to that intention, and then all that spiritual force and inertia that you've been developing, it's gonna iron out all the wrinkles, so that's
Yeah.
each thing. Fall back on the positives,
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because one of the things I noticed over the last few days, well, it's been there, like you were saying, what are you hearing? What's your body telling you? And it's been like a slow graduation where it's been a subtle voice, and it's become a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. But again, there's no force. There's no adamancy in it. It's just like, we're gonna ease you into this. The ease and grace path is there, because if it's not there, the only one that's creating the rough and rocky road is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last few days, particularly it was last night when I laid down with Morgan, we didn't really say anything because we were really tired, and but I connected for quite a while. And one of the things that was coming in, it's interesting, she was talking about the life review earlier. It wasn't so much a life review as it was a review of my physical vessel. So what was happening was, I was saying, hey, my hair's falling out, or I'm just giving examples, or I've got a bad tooth, or this or that. And so I started to get this main line of consciousness or information or code that was telling me, whatever thoughts you carry forward is what your reality is going to be. And we're way past the BS period. We're way past the cliches and the new ageisms. You're actually putting this into the earth now, into your own existence. You're actually converting to your light body and controlling the acceleration of it by the thoughts you carry forward. So the affirmations, the mantras were something that popped in. And yes, I can see usefulness of it, because it's almost like that old saying, although this isn't going to apply perfectly, you fake it till you make it. But
Yeah.
you believe something, and this is what I was getting really big last night. It was really powerful. I was getting, if you can crack the code here, you can self-heal with immediate physical evidence, like way different than any of us have experienced. But this is not about me. This is about the space of creation and alchemy and magic that we're walking into, that in order for it to expand has to be engaged and utilized. Otherwise, it just sits there stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. Any other hot topics that have been like that? Have you like noticed coming up recently? Because like I wrote down a couple things I wanted to say. Oh, this was perfect. We're talking about like higher consciousness, and it's a full embodiment of all of your emotions freely, to be grounded, to be happy, to be joyful. But it reminded me of this quote from Yogananda, where he came here. I think it was like the 1900s, and he brought Kriya Yoga to the West for the first time. And he had this ashram out in California, and he had all these students and everything. Everything's going great. And he had one of his students, and he's like, Yogananda, is it okay if I still go out and drink? Is it okay if I still go out and smoke cigarettes or go out to the clubs? And Yogananda's like, yes, of course, you can do all those things. You can still do those things and still practice. But then he eventually said, in the future, you may not want to do them anymore, but you can. So it's just like, with your trajectory, don't have shame and guilt and embarrassment about what you're doing as a spiritual person. Because as I said, I think there's a lot of misnomers about what it means to be a spiritual individual, and then there's a lot of judgments that are placed on particular behaviors that are just completely just not accurate. Yeah. So just embody whatever it is you want to do it with your full body, your full awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
Eventually, if you're not supposed to do it anymore, your body will tell you.
I love that though, because if you look at a lot of the stories of the light of what we call the light workers or whatever, and a lot of them, obviously a lot of them have been on this show over the years. That a lot of them are wild asses. Like, in other words, whatever they did full blast.
Yeah.
And so that's where you see a lot of them have come back from like heavy addiction and, obesity and, sexual addiction, or just lots of different things. But that's also an attribute, Sometimes the attributes of the soul show up in the human in an extreme and polarized sense. And, and I think the other thing that you bring up that's coming up now is, especially over the last few weeks, is the judgment. The condemnation, the BS of inferiority and superiority, righteousness. And I think the bottom line here is there's 7.7 billion people on the earth, and there's 7.7 billion evolutions, transcendent experiences, that we have a certain amount of energetic real estate in this universe. That's all we have. That's all we are accountable for in terms of creation, in terms of whatever we do with it. Mm-hmm. Anything outside of that circle is none of our business. Anything that occurs in terms of merging energies, now that we're moving into this state of conscious creation, responsible creation, it requires the mutual equality from each of the two or more that gather to really get the maximization of the potential, which is why we're here. We're here to expand our experience, and it's done through our individual efforts, our collaborative efforts, and this is how the universe grows. This is why we got here, how we got here. At least that's my opinion. But I think that's a really good point, because this is another thing where we walk two paths. I'm spiritual. I'm over here, but I'm over here. And allowing my ego, allowing my wounded self to still make judgments and still make smart remarks, and still look down at people, or even look up at people in terms of putting them on a pedestal. This is an equal territory. Everybody has the same standing, and that is, of course, the limitlessness of the goddesses in the skin that we are.
It makes sense because, like, man, we have a huge this is a huge game we're playing, and it's like, we come down here to experience Earth, to experience being in the flesh. But then we also come down here with a specific goal that we're trying to lay and trying to get that foundation down. And then, to be a spiritual being at the same time. So you have all of these issues. Oh, and then, a lot of us who come down here for the experience of having a difficult merging into love, either through addictions or through unwanted behaviors that are hurting, as you mentioned before. But I really think that it gives a lot of relatability, for all the light workers who have struggled with some form of dark shadow. It really helps you relate to the common culture way more, because if you had all these people that didn't do anything wrong in their whole lives and they're trying to relate to people who have, it's going to create this big divisive, almost repulsion but when you have someone that's been there, done that, and they've come out of it, that makes it more relatable. So you have this incredible variety that's happening now with all of us awakening. And, we just need to continue to let go of all the judgment and the ideas of what we think spirituality means. Because, a lot of the new people, they have this idea of what they think it is. When you look at, for instance, yoga is usually, I think, the inception of how people who have never heard of anything spiritual, it's usually yoga is how they come into the circuit and they see a yoga class. But then the yoga classes or the yoga teachers, they start putting in that culture into what they think spirituality is. So they say, oh, you have to do yoga.
Yeah.
So if you're in yoga, that means you're very spiritual. And if you do yoga really well, that means you must be really spiritual. So you have all these kind of, discrepancies that occur.
Yeah.
So it's to bring the truth back out,
Yeah. The minute you start getting a dogmatic frequency into anything, then it starts to lose its credibility. I can think of a lot of different stories here, and I think we have to, one of the things that I don't think we have to do anything or need to do anything. And I've said that many times, but I think there's a certain path that we're on. This is a collective ascension. It's bigger than all of us. We're all important, but we're not important. So it's like, don't take yourself too seriously, but don't discredit yourself, or don't take anything away from the fact that you are limitless and one soul can change this entire world. And that's the truth. But again, this is my opinion. But what I'm getting at is that part of what we're headed towards is a total openness, is an absolute telepathic environment where there are no secrets and lies. And so this also means that we're going to be speaking very direct, no walking on eggshells, no tiptoeing through the tulips, It's going to be straight. It's going to be direct. So this is where I see these conversations going. And having said that, and this again, these are all lessons for each one of us to see. So we'll have a context so we can then bring into alignment that funny little thin line between discernment and judgment. Okay. And what I'm getting at is what you're saying. The dogma and the doctrine are not going to be with us. So we can say they got to go, they have to go, or we can say, hey, we're not following that person or that group because they're now getting into this doctrine or this dogmatic, frequency. But it's pretty obvious because, like just what you said a minute ago about the Yogananda story and the partying and the drinking and the smoking, to lay down any type of absolutes in the micro universe that you're a part of, be it a group, be it your life, be it whatever, is to disallow the participation of some part of the universal. And that is a stagnant frequency. And that is not what we are. And that's not what this universe is. So the open-mindedness in all regards is so essential. And again, it's only going to come to us by the good work that we do within ourselves, which comes up upon us in the human interactions day to day, would be it messaging, or I saw somebody's comment, or somebody made a comment on my post, or somebody didn't talk to me, or whatever the case is. It's done at the nuts and bolts. And I think this is where I was talking about in the beginning, where the body is being present, and the body being all my sensations, all my feelings, not the higher ones, the five, the human senses, and all of that stuff really being felt, really being heard, and utilizing and complementing the higher sensitivities and aspects.
No, I agree. And you hinted at a word a second ago, discernment. Discernment is such a powerful emotion. I like to teach on like what are like the ascending emotions. What are the keys to what are like the emotional keys to our ascension? And discernment is a very strong energy that's needed in all of us. Discernment is what protects us from judgment. It protects us from behaving in ways we don't want to behave anymore. But also, it stops us from judging because you get understanding. When you start raising up in consciousness, you start opening up the heart, you start loving more, you're looking at everyone, and instead of judgment, you get this perspective of this individual is still, they are going through their life path, they're going through their behaviors, and there's nothing wrong with that. I still feel for them. I'm here. If they ever need help, they want to learn a little bit more, then you speak to them in a way that helps them always. You don't have to tell them how it is or how bad they are. You look at where they're at and you say, what could I say that would empower their life at that exact moment? Yeah. And that's where we have to scale down a lot just to meet everyone where they're at. And it allows the progression for creativity and growth to happen more freely with each other without that fear of, oh man, this person looks at me because I did this. Now I have shame and I don't want to do these group activities anymore because of that way. But, the more we eradicate that form or those misnomers about, what being spiritual is, then I think it's going to be a lot more palatable for everyone when these truths emerge. And I really feel it's really valuable and important, for more and more of this to be known.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's a very good point. And that's what you were alluding to earlier is that, okay, so like there are souls that have come to this realm to play all different kinds of roles for themselves and for the collective. And some of those souls, for instance, have chosen, by their free will before we ever incarnated, to say, I don't want to wake up while I'm there. I don't want to wake up while I'm there. There's a meme that's gone around that says it's not about waking other people up. That's your ego. It's about waking yourself up. That's your soul. So I know that's a little harsh and a little extreme, but again, it's just meant to drive a point home. And it's kind of like stay in your own lane, do your thing, put the blinders on, don't look back, don't look at how much attention you're getting, don't look how many likes you're getting or views you're getting, or you know what I mean? It's not about that. It's about to thine own self be true, which is a very multi-dimensional, multi-aspect type of thing, because we have all of this stuff coming into alignment in this very dense physical body, which is then, as the more we go into alignment, the more we own the human. It is the catalyst. It's the integral part of our transformation. It's the seed of transformation. So what ends up happening is as I become more focused in all of my composition of all of my field and honor and release all the judgments and the guilt and the shame and all this stuff we've worked on, and become a fluid, clear channel in my human vessel, then that's the best way to serve the collective. That's the most effective and efficient way to serve the collective, because it works off a whole different math than the linear. It's quantum, it's contagious, it's the real viral contagion in this realm. Souls pick up on it even when they're not conscious. And we've all had that experience. People talk about planting seeds. If you go out and do this and you go out and do that, or you have a conversation with somebody like you were talking about earlier, what do you say to that person? Sometimes you don't say a damn thing because you realize there's a wall there, no judgment. It may be me, it may be them, it may be the whole kit and caboodle. But the bottom line is, my intentions, my heart, my illumination is going to be picked up by those souls, whether the human part of them or the human part of me is conscious of it or not.
Yeah, and to also to add to what you were saying before, it's like, right now we have social media. Everyone has a particular brand that they want to put out to everyone. And in that, trying to promote yourself, you begin to lose a lot of truth, a lot of authenticity. And that's what is actually valued the most right now with the collective, is to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
The more we can break free, it's like a breath of fresh air when you see someone, because you know immediately when you talk to someone, or you watch a video, are they being true?
Yeah.
Our extrasensory as a whole, it's all growing. Everyone can see if you're just promoting, or if you really do embody what you're saying,
Yeah.
because that voice of truth, it's going to have more of a domino effect, and the truth rises to the surface eventually. So you know, definitely continues on with that.
Man, I started out slow this morning, but running into you just lit me up. But this is true too, and this is part of what's happening too. Like you were saying earlier, is having compassion, not
Mm.
because I'm going to have compassion. This is something you talked about, the emotions of that benefit transformation and alchemy and so on, because that is part of the gift of the human. I mean, I don't have all the answers, and I don't say I've done all the research, but one thing I've picked up on is that one part of the human's contribution to the universal family is the emotions. It is the heart, and in particular, the emotions as they are infused into the alchemic process. It's
Yeah.
a whole different thing when you have an emotion and you then generate that, and that's been a big struggle for all of us, but we're getting there to where you start to create something. Now, getting back to what you were saying, it's one thing to have compassion. Oh, that person's not awake. But it's another thing to say, that person's been channeling for 10 years. They're overly attached to the essence that they're channeling, or they're over identifying with their past life. So that's a little bit more difficult. That's where I'm seeing in the lightworker community, we're being challenged, and rocks are being thrown, and mud's being slung. And this, you're having this, but it's also good because it's a chaotic movement before we come into alignment. But all I'm trying to say is that we're pushing the envelope. What we think we knew were the limits of compassion, of love, of courage, of wisdom, are being pushed out of the way and expanded by virtue of how willing we are in terms of our open-mindedness.
Mhm.
And I think it's a really good thing to remember too, that these people, these souls, and again, everybody's had a role. Anybody that's put themselves out there, you have to give respect to, because ultimately, you're right. Everybody has a universal personal profile page in the universe, and Facebook is a replica of that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like a laboratory, and the more you can put your authenticity out there, and that's not an easy thing, because how do you find it unless you try? The
Mhm.
best thing, in my opinion, that can happen to anybody, including me, and it's happened many times, and it'll probably happen again, is to show my ass, is
Mhm.
to fall on my face, is to embarrass myself, is to screw up, is to put something out that's less than perfect, because it does something to the soul. It says, your soul goes, oh, that wasn't so bad. Let's
Yeah.
try it again,
And it gives people an example, as well. That reminds me of a story. One of my dear teachers on the other side goes by the name of Harakan Babaji. And they say, this man was literally like God incarnate during this time frame. But anyways, there's still people who are alive now that met him in the flesh. And one of the stories was this guy's first time meeting this great master who's done these incredible things. And the first thing he sees him do is he steps out of a cab, and he says that he sees him pick his nose without any embarrassment, and he looks right in the eye. Like, it doesn't matter. We are all human. This is part of being human. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And even God in the physical body has the limitations of what it means to be human, but it's about embodying, as we know, it's not about, thinking your way to enlightenment. It's about taking particular emotions and embody them as best you can. Another really cool quote that I heard. This one of my friends that's a yoga teacher. I can't remember the exact quote that they had, but it was like something along the lines of, when you die, you're going to be judged on two things. How much joy did you have within your physical body, and how much joy did you give other people? And that's such a really important thing. Like, we're here for such a brief amount of time. You might as well be happy. You might as well, let your guard down a little bit, because it's going to help out so much more to see people who aren't perfect, because no one's perfect, and we just have to continue with those ways. And, eventually you rise up and you embody the deepest part of love. And that is going to have the domino effect. That's going to change more people, not through talking, through that resonance. That's what changes people,
Yeah.
The quantum field. We're all connected, and, doing these types of, group activities, like, for instance, like the group healing, that is what really develops a catalyst for humanity. That's like the spearhead of, okay, these group of humans, they're doing new things in this dimension. So now that gets recorded. Now the path has been set, so the next person can do it a little bit easier.
True that. Yeah, like Sandra Walters' Sunday meditation that's been going on for years. Things like that, like what you do. I mean, and I think that one other thing too, that we have to all give ourselves credit for. And I'm not trying to make it unique to the Lightworker circles. But what I'm saying is, the souls that have been called into this particular arena have all had at least one of two things happen. One, and I think everybody has, but one is they've connected to infinite intelligence in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. They've gotten a message in some form or fashion. And the second thing being, which is probably part of one, is then they go to find the arena or the field of consciousness where this information that they're being given is being disseminated. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that, many of these people up to this point have then gone out and said, okay, I'm going to share this into the field, into the community. Regardless of any of our blind spots or unconscious programming, our intentions are what are driving this, which means our heart is what's driving this. And yes, there's been a split in the heart, and half of it's been soul, and half of it's been wounded ego. But we're merging all that, just like we're merging everything else. So we cannot discount the fact, even if there's someone out there that you absolutely don't resonate with, that's putting it out there every day. You can call them a dark worker. You can call them controlled. You can call them whatever the hell you want, but don't fool yourself. That's you're looking at. They have the same intention. They're dealing with the power of these downloads and transmission. That's a big challenge to the ego. And as we've all learned, we've got to stay on our toes day after day after day. And as we've all learned this year, especially, even with its roller coaster, change of pace and ups and downs, we've all started to realize that it's working, and that we are congealing, and that we are coalescing, and that we are aligning as individuals, as couples, as groups, and as a community.
Yeah, that momentum is probably unstoppable at this point. Like the momentum that these generations right now, I mean, this is going to ripple out for, decades, hundreds of years even. This right now, the work we're putting in is, who knows, like the way in which the quantum field works. This may have set the groundwork for, the new earth we all talk about. Yeah. Everything we're doing right now is very valuable. And that's what I like to say is, like, everybody counts. Everybody matters, because that's a piece of yourself. If you discount someone, if you look down on someone, or you disregard them because of a view or whatever have you, you're the only one that feels the hurt of that in the end of it. And that's what we got to remember. It's like everyone's at a different place. But at the same time, the Creator has placed itself into every single thing, every situation, every experience we have is an opportunity to learn the Creator even more. So when you have those difficult experiences, that difficult person, or you see someone presenting themselves in a way that's not the authenticity that you want, it's still giving you that opportunity to see, okay, what's this bringing up in me?
Yeah.
How I grow personally from this.
What am I missing in myself?
Yeah, then the ripples go out even further.
And two, like we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Well, on the peripheral, talking about some of these things that are being revealed worldwide, and then putting into perspective a perpetrator, a gross perpetrator, one that may have done things that are just absolutely unspeakable. That's a physical representation of an energetic, right? And there are many different types on the superficial types of physical representations of an energy. So where have I been a gross perpetrator? Where have I violated someone's energetic field? There's a spectrum out there, and the human consciousness standing in and of itself without, tapping into anything beyond it that's so much of us, the vast majority of us, can only see things in a very singular level. So, this is a part of, I think, what's coming into the field too. And it's not going to be about what is brought to the surface. It's not about that. It's not about, oh, we're here so we can see all this stuff came, all this stuff's been happening. It's been hidden. It's been secreted away. We need to punish these people and all this stuff. It's not about that. It's about what is our reaction? How do we own what's happening out there? Do we consider it to be separate from us? Or do we find a way, maybe that's our mission, do we find a way, and I think it is, to continue towards a greater sense of unity consciousness and merging all of these polarities? So I think whatever we have figured might be coming, I think it's going to be blown away in terms of what's revealed, but also in terms of the other side of it, what we do with that. Because what's revealed is going to provide the seed of an alchemic change that this universe has never seen. And to me, this is what we're doing here as a team. And that means every single person that's come to the earth, that's on the earth, every soul, and every soul that is going to come.
In some perspectives, some things look really bad on the surface level, but when you zoom out and you see the bigger picture on a collective whole, like say, something happened in the world right now that's a travesty, that's just like a horrendous act. But sometimes you have to realize, as a whole, is that like there's a collective consciousness in which the collective itself, every single person, is part of the whole. Yeah. And the collective has an agenda. And that agenda sometimes can't be seen on the surface level where things look so terrible and so, dreary and bad. But when you let it zoom out, you see how it catalyzes itself. You see how this experience, as bad as it seems right now, is actually extremely important to create the catalyst necessary to create even more change.
That's right.
More alignment. So sometimes, it's good to have, once again, discernment to where we need to look into what are these awful things that are happening? How can we change them? And for those that are going to change them, you have that calling, be that activist, get out there and do something. But those who are just, researching too much about all these awful things, you're just polluting your own self with that. So there's like a healthy level of discernment in knowing that we should all have. Otherwise, keep practicing these embodiments, keep looking at your friend and your neighbor with a loving eye and try to release that judgment, because it's really easy to get taken out by the mainstream media and everything else that comes with that. So definitely a healthy amount of discernment and to just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, we created all that. And to your point earlier, every single one of us has made the choice to come here, to participate, to design and orchestrate everything that's gone on. Not only did we lay a template down before we walked in the door, but we've also modified and refined that template as we're walking out the door now. And so, let me just put it this way. I don't make a lot of predictions, but in the context of this conversation, in regard to what you said about the truth, about authenticity, about purpose and mission and expansion, the we know in a literal sense all this stuff going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we're beating a dead horse because we're spending all of our time over here on this end of the spectrum of, oh my God, look at that. And there's another side to it, which is that it is the seed of transformation. It is the seed of alchemy and magic and healing and alignment. Without that, we would not have the opportunity or the potential that we do. Mm-hmm. So I think there's going to be a lot more focus coming to those energetic platforms, be it a person or a group or whatever, that are basically emulating the people that I've learned from, which is keep your mouth shut, do your work, stay in your own lane, kind of that energy of just like under the radar. And then by the time it all starts to come to the surface, at least from a, like a human 3D societal standpoint, it's going to be so huge and so explosive. And like you said, you can't stop it now.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Just keep, step by step, keep, to thine own self be true, keep your own counsel. And I guess the one thing that's never going to change, the only equation in the universe that I think there is, which is what goes around comes around, the golden rule, treat others as you would have them treat you, and that type of thing. Because karma's still very present, even though we've all processed a lot of karma. But it's still very present. So if you make a karmic a decision with karmic consequences, you're going to see them pretty quick. It's been yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm good.
Yeah, and it's like when you really take the ascension process a little more seriously and you start to meditate and you have a practice, one thing that I've learned in my experience is, that disharmonic judgment or bad conversation or bad relationship you had or that activity you did, all that stuff comes back to the surface, so all will have to be harmonized, all comes back up. So we might as well just make it easier, in our waking life and not have to, deal with all of those traumas, is just to be kind. I was thinking about the Yogananda thing again, or those who have made it to enlightenment, and like some of the biggest characteristics that they display is not worrying. Worrying is just completely removed from their embodiment. They just have that trust, that easygoing nature. So that's what we need to do. We could all worry a little bit less and behave and do things and be active a little bit more. Because we get a little bit complacent.
I agree.
Technology is such a big influence in our lives, and it kind of, especially during the times right now, we're all, staying home mostly and having to stay in. But eventually, we got to get back out there. Life's got to continue, and we need to just focus on, how can we enrich each other's lives? This is probably the most divisive time frame that I remember in my, short time on this earth. And that divisive nature, we need to harmonize that. We're so quick to judge and to jump down each other's throats and to write and make lines in the sand. They say, oh, well, since you're on that side, immediately that negativity comes and pushes them away. We need to unravel that. And a lot of it's because of social media. A lot of it's because of the news. But eventually that's a big factor that I see on a massive collective level that's happening everywhere. It's trying to divide people with every single topic possible. And that needs to be undone. It's okay to have a different ability. It's okay to have a different, view of the earth or view of humanity. It doesn't matter. And the more you supplement feeling actual true love and getting into those high states, you begin to see how meaningless a lot of these arguments are. You begin to see how this doesn't matter.
Well, and then I think the final thing I want to say, and then I want to give you an opportunity to make any announcements or anything that you want to, is, so this is all coming up, and it's coming up for a reason. It's coming up not so we can get caught up in it. It's coming up to help us create a higher level of alignment through learning what judgment is, discernment is, and all that for ourselves. Each and every one of us is an island in and of themselves, right? But at the same time, we've got to be, conscious of what is in our mind. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I've told this story, years ago when I woke up. I watched a lot of police brutality videos. I had some experiences that, at least in part, manifested from the energetic field I was creating by my dissension with inequality and oppression and injustice and police brutality and whatever the case is, biasness. Okay. So then I cleared it and years went by, and 3 or 4 months ago, I started watching these videos again. And I pull out of my driveway, a cop pulls up in my driveway, blocks me and says, "What are you doing here?" I'm pulling out of my house. Now, I realized in that moment that I created that experience by filling my energy field with these videos a couple hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've gone to another level again. I'm watching some stuff. My wife's from Melbourne. I'm watching the Victoria lockdown. I'm watching how she's, navigating it. I'm watching her expansion, her growth, her alchemic process. And I start to get in a different way pulled in, and I see a couple of videos, and I watch a few more. And then I laid down last night and I said to myself, wait a minute, you're about to hit the road. You're about to cross several states. I don't want this in my field. I honor the consciousness of the police force. I honor the consciousness of the victims. There's victims on both sides. They're all victims. We're all victims. So I went to the mat with it, and I said, I'm done. Now, will I ever go back and watch one? I might. I might have more growth opportunities. But in terms of what I'm about to experience, in responsibility of my own energetic field and path, I'm going to remove that from my field now. And I'm going to do it in the most balanced way I can at this point. So I think we've got to be careful about the waters that we swim in, and because, we are, like a sponge. We're not a solid, we're, porous. And the more we swim in it, it's just like our skin. It gets all looking like grapes, it gets permeated into our essence. And yes, we're incredible. Yes, we can instantly change and alter and alchemize and convert and transform, but we're learning, and we are the keeper of our consciousness. And I just thought I'd throw that in there because it felt applicable. I'm going to give the floor over to you. We've got another show with your namesake in 21 minutes, but anything that you want to announce, anything that you want to talk about, or anything you want to offer in terms of a blessing, prayer, whatever.
Yeah. I just have 2 big things coming up in the near future. So for those of you who haven't heard of me, I'm Joseph Adams. I'm an intuitive healer, and I run this amazing group healing service. And the next healing that we are doing is on the 20th. And if you want to learn more about that, check out my page. It's coming up. The other thing that I have coming up in the near future is I teach an online program on higher consciousness, on what it means to ascend. What does it mean to evolve to the next level of consciousness? And it's a 16-week online program. Basically, everything I've learned and the way in which I've learned it, on how our mind evolves, learning security, learning how love impacts our being. What does it mean to connect with God? How do we channel? How do we work with crystals? Lucid dreaming protocol, healing the shadow, everything. There's a whole bunch of classes. And if you're interested, enrollment is happening right now. I'll have a link on my page as well if it's not already there. But other than that, I really enjoy the opportunity to talk to everyone. And I enjoyed this conversation very much.
Yeah, me too, man. It's very stimulating. And go ahead and put your links, if you would, on Todd Medina Facebook page, and I would say also Soulogy One Studios YouTube channel, because people will be looking for it. All right? All right, you take care. Best to you and your beloved partner, and best to you on your trip.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll see you next month. All right? Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. See you in about